Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael. With spring's arrival comes spring cleaning, and your cleanup or to-do list may include the garage, the basement, perhaps even the whole house. But when you're doing that spring cleaning, there are some hazardous things that you ought to be aware of. So today we're highlighting what's called special recycling in Vermont. This involves mostly household items that do not belong in your blue bin or whatever container you use to hold your recycling. So to find out more, I'm joined by two guests from the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. Mia Rothlein and Karen Knabel are both specialists in the DEC's Solid Waste Management and Prevention Division. I want to thank you both for coming in. This is perfect timing, just in time for spring.
Thanks for having us, Will. Appreciate it.
What is special recycling? How do you guys define that?
Sure. Special recycling are items like batteries, propane tanks, hazardous waste, electronics, thermostats. We'll go through the whole list detailed for you in a few minutes. Mercury lamps, and these are all items that are toxic and need special disposal and special handling in order to be taken care of safely. You do not want to put these items in your blue bin with your regular recycling because they can harm the environment and harm people. And also some of these materials have some valuable material in them, such as the electronics and the batteries. There's some metals in there.
Yep. Well, as you mentioned, we are going to go through these examples one by one, but I take a moment to underscore how important this all is. Across the Fence recently visited the MRF, the Materials Recycling Facility, which is where our recycling goes. And the people working there, of course, are real people. They sort through the things that we put into our recycling bin. And when the wrong things go into the bins, it can make their job not only gross, it can make it downright dangerous. So we're going to pay attention to what Mia and Karen have to say as they show and talk about the items that cause the majority of problems in our sorting facility. And please don't put these items in your recycling bin or cart. So Karen, get us started. What's on the special recycling list?
Well, special recycling, and these are programs that are funded by manufacturers, and they are funded because they have been found to be hazardous materials. So we have electronics, and I'll tell you which ones in a little bit. We have mercury thermostats, we have mercury-containing lamps, which are usually fluorescent bulbs. You know, there are others, but fluorescent bulbs. There's batteries, and then there's paint.
And I think one of the things that I know I learned in talking to you guys before we started, a lot of this stuff is supported, but we've already paid for it when we bought the product. That piece you said about the manufacturer, just explain that a little bit more. What does that mean?
Okay, well, every one of these programs is slightly different. Some of them, I assume that the cost probably went up for the purchase of the devices. Paint specifically, you will find a particular cost, and you can go into that when you buy your paint. The other programs are not going to show any kind of cost, but likely some of that cost went into the product when you purchase.
Yeah, and just an ad for those manufacturers to sell those products in Vermont, they have to set up a free recycling program for those materials. That's the requirement.
Right, so these are all laws. These are all mandated by law. Yeah. So.
Let's start with e-waste. It's clearly a 21st century phrase. It's something that we're familiar with.
Right.
But set the stage. What is e-waste?
Well, we were the 22nd state to develop a program like this. And electronic waste, every state is slightly different, but in Vermont, our legislation includes computers, monitors for those computers, printers, and televisions. So the manufacturers of just those devices, and that's where sometimes it gets a little bit confusing because people think electronic waste, that's everything with a cord. But this program is free for those devices, and we collect about 4 million pounds every year here in Vermont, and we've been leading in the nation for the amount of televisions we've been pulling out of our basements.
And when it comes to computers, we're only going to see more and more of these
That's
things
right.
as time goes on.
That's right.
Karen, I told you before we got started, and again, you brought in an example of exactly the type of thermostat that I replaced with an electrician last fall.
Right.
And it turns out that there's a reason why we need to be particularly attuned to these, I call them the dial-up type.
Right.
So walk us through, why is this on the list?
Well, I've been in the Mercury program for 20 years, and if you pull your, I don't know if you can see this or not, but if you pull this shield
Yep.
off.
Hold it right there because our director, Adam Wright, that's perfect. Yep.
Okay, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little glass vial in here, and this little glass vial has mercury in it, and it's in the liquid form. And so I don't know if you can see it in there.
Tilt it this way, just a little.
It glitters a little bit in there, and this is the same stuff that's in your mercury thermometer, and hopefully you don't have any of those either. But you can tell right away when you pull, sometimes you have to look down in there a little bit to pull this little vial out. But mercury is a neurotoxin, and this is the stuff that pollutes our fish, that has us have fish advisories in the state.
All we need, the most important thing, and I hate to jump in, it's nasty. This is not something we want in our natural environment.
I mean, you know, as long as you have it on your wall and you've got the cover on it, it's a safe thing. But when you pull it off, you need to make sure it gets disposed of properly.
Special recycling for thermostats.
Right.
Okay.
The unique thing about this one is there's an incentive along with the manufacturer paying for this. They also if you take it into a hardware store, you get $5 off the purchase of anything in the store. So that's an added incentive, which the other ones don't have. The other programs don't have.
All right, a key point to remember. Thank you. Mia, turning over, bringing you back in. Let's talk about paint. I think we all know about, look, paint doesn't belong in the trash, but it doesn't belong in recycling either. Even
nope,
an
it doesn't.
Can.
And we are fortunate to have a statewide collection program for paint. We have locations at hardware stores, at paint stores, at solid waste district transfer stations, solid waste district hazardous waste facilities will all collect paint for free. And right now there's more than, we're at I think about 80 different collection locations for paint in Vermont. You can drop off your paint when you go to the hardware store to pick up something else or to pick up more paint. And you can recycle both your latex paint and your oil-based paint in Vermont.
You read my mind. All paint.
All paint, yes. And the latex paint, a lot of it is reblended into new latex paint and actually sold in Vermont through Chittenden Solid Waste District's Local Colors program. And then oil-based paint often goes for fuel blending, which is energy to operate certain like cement kiln plants.
Thank you, Mia. Let me come back to Karen. Preparing again for the program, I asked you about light bulbs, and this is the one that sort of first came on the market. It's the most recognizable of the new era light bulbs.
Right.
But there's an issue with this. This, again, doesn't belong in my trash, and it doesn't belong in my blue bin. Why?
And it contains mercury. So fluorescent bulbs in general all contain mercury.
So even the kind like this that has that curly Q, but it's now inside there, and so it looks a little bit more like a conventional light bulb.
So these are labeled. They're required to be labeled. If you just see an HG in a circle, which is the periodic table symbol for mercury, then you're going to know that that lamp has mercury in it. And so when people bring these in, and primarily hardware stores do the lamp and the thermostat program for homeowners, you can bring in any number of those, but the long tubes, they'll also take those.
Which is on the screen,
right? But there's a limit of 10 for every time that you come, because hardware stores in a lot of these locations have limited space. Also, your districts collect them as well.
All right, I want to move on to batteries, and Mia, this is one that honestly, it's confused me a little bit because there are some different rules. But let's boil that down. What do you want us to be doing?
I want you
batteries?
to, if I could have one wish for you to recycle all your batteries. Currently in Vermont, as of January 2016, you're able to recycle all of your household batteries. We have a shot on the screen right now that's showing you your single-use alkaline batteries, your rechargeable batteries, little 9-volt batteries rechargeable that you use for a drill. All of those you can recycle for free. There are collection locations at hardware stores, at transfer stations, at your solid waste districts. Some of your town clerks have them. We can connect you on our website. You just put in your zip code and you can find a free battery drop-off. The confusion lies in that single-use alkaline batteries. In the early 90s, they took mercury out of them. And at that time, we said, there's no mercury in them. We don't have recycling programs set up yet. It is okay to put them in the trash. So right now we're trying to... Now we have the programs. So we're trying to get you to all recycle those batteries.
Okay. All batteries.
All batteries.
And we're going to point out before the program ends, if you have questions, there is a website, VT, we'll give it at the end of the program, that really points us all in the right direction of what we can do with all of this stuff. Now, we started the program talking about spring cleaning, and that can raise some questions about some of the containers we might find in the garage, heaven forbid, or under the sink. It might be a household cleaner, but sometimes we're not really sure and I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely. So if you know, we all of us have something around the house that even though we buy it at the grocery store or the hardware store, it's really not very good for us. Things like a drain cleaner, bug spray, you might have some old gas, you might have some paint thinner, you might have different materials like that. If you see corrosive, toxic, warning, hazardous label, anything like on that product, you're going to assume it's household hazardous waste. Your local solid waste district or alliance, or sometimes your local town will have drop-offs. Again, we have a locator if you go to our website to show you where you could bring those items, and it's really important to get those collected properly, to not put them in your recycling, and to not put them in your trash.
All right. Karen, I need to tell you both, we have about a minute left. You brought along a graphic in addition to the great one we just saw there. You brought a graphic that helps sum things up, so could you sort of quickly walk us through this summation?
So these are all programs that are funded by manufacturers. They are all free to the public. They are statewide. They are year-round. And these programs, if you want to find out where the locations are, where you can take them, you would go to vtrecycles.com and click on the button that says, where do I take this? Is that the correct? Where do I take this?
What do I do with it?
What do I do with this? And so, and the telephone number you can call rings at our desk right there in where we work, and it's 1-855-6-E-CYCLES, ECYCLES.
Lots of great information, and I'm actually just going to reiterate that. To learn more, or you need to be reminded of the special recycling items, check the website vtrecycles.com, or the phone number that Karen gave you, toll-free 855-6-E-CYCLE. A lot of great information, and again, thank you both for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
That is our program for today. We know you have choices, so thanks for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit Across the Fence.